There's a change that many parents feel, but rarely talk about. It doesn't happen suddenly, and there's no single moment that clearly marks it. But over time, something shifts. You begin to notice it in small ways. They used to listen when you spoke. Now they interrupt. They used to respond with respect. Now their tone feels different. And slowly, almost without realizing it, you start to feel less valued. The hardest part is not even the change itself, but the confusion that comes with it. You don't know exactly when it started. You can't point to one specific moment and say, this is where everything changed, but you feel it, and that feeling doesn't go away. And then the questions begin. What changed? Did they change? Or did something happen that you didn't notice? As a parent, this is difficult to accept because in your mind, you've done everything you were supposed to do. You've been there, you've supported them, you've sacrificed your time, your energy, your comfort. So when the relationship starts to feel different, it doesn't make sense. But the truth is, this didn't happen overnight. It happened through small, repeated moments that didn't seem important at the time. Moments when they spoke in a way that didn't feel respectful, and you chose to stay silent. Moments when they interrupted you, and you decided not to make a big deal out of it. Moments when they asked for something, and you immediately said yes, even when you were tired. At the time, those decisions felt right. You didn't want conflict, you didn't want tension, you didn't want to damage the relationship over something small. You chose peace. But in choosing peace every time, something else was being built quietly in the background. A pattern. And that pattern matters more than any single moment, because people don't learn from what you say once, they learn from what happens repeatedly. Without realizing it, you may have been teaching your child something very important, not through words, but through your responses. You were teaching them that certain behaviors have no consequences. And when something has no consequence, it becomes acceptable. When it becomes acceptable, it becomes normal. And when it becomes normal, it becomes a habit. This is where many parents misunderstand what's happening. They think their child has changed. They think it's the environment or friends or modern culture. They believe something external is responsible. But most of the time, the shift doesn't come from outside. It comes from patterns that were built over time. Children don't suddenly decide to stop respecting their parents. They adapt to what they experience consistently. If they speak with a harsh tone and nothing happens, they learn it's okay. If they interrupt and are never corrected, they assume it's normal. If they ask and always receive, they begin to expect it. Not because they're intentionally trying to be disrespectful, but because that's the environment they've learned to operate in. And over time, something subtle but powerful happens. What used to be appreciated becomes expected. What used to be valued becomes taken for granted. This is the moment where many parents feel the shift the most. They feel like they're giving just as much as before, but receiving something completely different in return. And that's where frustration begins. But before frustration turns into blame, there's something important to understand. Your child didn't wake up one day and decide to stop respecting you. They learned over time that not respecting you doesn't change anything. And that realization is not meant to hurt you. It's meant to empower you. Because if something is learned, it can also be unlearned, but not through anger, not through guilt, and not through emotional reactions. It changes through clarity, through consistency, through boundaries. And it starts with something very simple, but very uncomfortable. Changing how you respond. The next time they interrupt you, don't ignore it. Don't adjust yourself to fit the situation. Instead, calmly say, I'm not finished speaking. Not loudly, not aggressively, just clearly. The next time their tone feels disrespectful, don't pretend it didn't happen. Say, the way you just spoke is not respectful. Again, not with anger, but with clarity. This is where many people make a mistake. They either stay silent or they react emotionally. But what actually works is something in between. Calm, clear correction. You're not attacking them as a person. You're addressing a behavior. And that difference matters, because when you attack the person, they defend themselves. But when you address the behavior, they can reflect. And this is where consistency becomes everything. Saying it once is not enough, because the pattern wasn't built in one day. It was built over time, so it has to be changed the same way, over time. At first, they may resist, they may act surprised, they may even push back, they may even get defensive. That's normal. You're interrupting a pattern they've been comfortable with, and any change feels uncomfortable at the beginning. But if you stay consistent, something begins to shift. They start to notice that things are different now, that certain behaviors are no longer ignored, that there are now clear boundaries. And slowly, they begin to adjust, not because they're afraid of you, but because the relationship now has structure. And structure creates respect, not control, not fear, but clarity. And clarity is what builds healthy relationships. This doesn't mean everything will immediately become perfect. There will be moments where they fall back into old habits. There will be days where you feel like nothing is changing. And in those moments, it's easy to give up. But this is where you have to remember something important. Relationships don't break in one moment, and they don't heal in one moment either. They are shaped by repetition. So if you stay consistent, even when it feels slow, you are rebuilding something that was gradually weakened. And over time, you will start to see small changes. They listen a little more. They interrupt a little less. Their tone begins to shift, not dramatically, but noticeably. And those small changes matter because they are signs that the pattern is changing. And once the pattern changes, the relationship follows. In the end, respect is not something you demand. It's something that grows from how the relationship is structured. It grows from boundaries, from consistency, from self-respect. Because your child learns how to treat you from how you allow yourself to be treated. And when you begin to change that, the relationship begins to change too. Slowly, not instantly, but in a way that lasts. And that's what truly matters.